Hey guys, my name is Justin. I just want to take just a few moments of your time to encourage you and challenge you. It is said that 75% of kids who grow up going to church when they're old enough to leave home and never attend church again. 75% of teenagers, 75% of kids our age will one day never attend church again. It is said that over 1,500 pastors resigned from being a pastor this past year. Over 2,000 churches closed their doors because people had stopped coming. People no longer came. It was said that over 90% of Americans claim to be in association with a religion or some form of religion and church. Today is less than 50% of Americans will claim any form of connection with churches. My question is, what's happening? As the years go on, the world is getting worse and worse, morally speaking. We may look at it and say, oh, the world is getting better and better with all this technology, but in all honesty, the world is getting worse and worse and worse. And we as Christians, we're not doing a thing about it. You can say, oh, you're just being judgmental. No, I've already shown you the facts. And my own conclusion is, what's the problem? My answer to you would be, the problem is that no one today thinks there's a problem. Because of all the freedom that we have, because of all the comforts we have today, Christians have lost sight of the importance of living the Christian life. We no longer see the need in telling people about Christ. Every time you take a deep breath and let it out, they say up to 2 to 3 people have just died. And you know that probably the vast majority of the people that die every single day are spending eternity in hell. When was the last time we stopped to think about that? The world is getting worse. And because of all the comforts that we have today, people just have lost sight of what's important. People have lost sight of their love for Christ. It's just like the Christians today. I'm not saying every Christian, because there are Christians out there who are living and striving to please God. But it's just like that church, that God had something against them because they had left their first love. You know, in the book of Hebrews in chapters 11, it talked about those that have lived by faith. We have this Bible today because of Christians who live for God. If those Christians got slack, if those Christians decided not to live for God, we would not have a copy of the Bible today, and none of us would be saved. It's because of faithful men and women like that. You know, they look at us teenagers today. They look at us today and have passed the torch on to us. And my challenge to you is, what are you going to do with it? You know, the Bible says in Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 30, it says that God sought for a man among the people that would stand up, stand in the gap and take up the hedge for God, for the land. But God could not find a single person. The Bible says that God found none. That means he looked into the entire land to find one person to stand up for him, but he could not find a single person. If God were to look for you today, would he find you? Do you want him to find you? The Bible goes on to say in the very next verse that because God could not find anyone, the land was wiped out and destroyed. Now, I wonder what could have happened to the land if God could have found one person. But today people laugh at Christianity. Today, even Christians who once claimed that God saved them now shake their fists at God and can care less about living for him. And God has done so much for us. And yet today, it's meaningless today. You know, the Bible says that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. That right there should excite us as Christians. You know, I want to encourage you to stay faithful. I want to encourage you to stand strong and say, I will be that one person. This is just a simple video. I have no idea who's going to watch it. But God is looking for someone. And my challenge to you, will you stand up and be that person? It does not matter how old or how young you are. Boy or girl, man, it does not matter. Will you be that person? Today, God is looking for someone to stand in the gap for him. And God says, I will use that person. God says, I will use that person to do exceedingly above all that you and I could ever ask or think. God just needs to find that person. Will you be that person? D.L. Moody, the great evangelist D.L. Moody, was sitting in evangelistic services, and he heard evangelists say, God has yet to see a man the world has yet to see God use someone who is fully committed to him. D.L. Moody sat in that service and said, by God's grace, I'll be that man. D.L. Moody shook over 2 continents for God. And on his deathbed, D.L. Moody said the world has yet to see a man fully committed to him. Now, my challenge to you, and that should excite us, my challenge to you is, would you be that person? Would you be that person that God can use to shake the world? You know, there's a verse behind me, which I'll show you in just a minute. It said, those that have turned the world upside down have come. You could be that next person that God uses to turn the world upside down. My challenge is to you, will you be that person?